name of Isis, Oshun, Ogun, Esli, of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, of Boukman, Toussaint, Nzinga, Aizan, I greet you in Haitian traditional terms, Onet. The response is respect. In the name of all those who fight against physical domination, intellectual occupation, and spiritual takeover and annihilation, I greet you in the words of fighters, liberty or death. We are in a time where we have to be conscious that the fight is about being free or being dead. There isn't very much in between. Whether we do breathe, I think they call it, or not, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what your mission is on this earth, if you don't know your mission, then you don't know how you should go about doing what you should do, then of course you're not alive. No matter how many things you pile up someplace in your name. This evening we're going to take a very brief look at a few women in Haitian history. Yes, these women are often not mentioned. If they're mentioned, it's just a name as somebody's wife when they're mentioned in a history book. But I'm going to give you just a little look as to what they did, which will show you how much what we call history is at least long-sided. But also I hope you take the time to give you a quick overview of a few women so you have an idea what women have done. For most of you here are familiar with the masculine side of Haitian history. Some elements, most of you probably do know about Toussaint Louverture, and you probably do know about Jean-Jacques Dessalines, or about Boukman. But you don't know who brought them, who taught them, who made them do. And that's what we're going to take a very quick look tonight first. But I would feel that that's all one family, whether Arawak or African. So when the Europeans arrived in the sea, they call today the Caribbean Sea, the so-called big-time discovery, Christopher Columbus, as the story came down to us, and as it is written in his own journal, he could not decide. He went through several islands, planted his cross, and plant his sword, and have some kind of ceremony swearing that this land is from now on belongs to the Queen of Spain. But he didn't stay anywhere. He was afraid to settle someplace, so he would go back to his village. But after a while, his men were fed up with living on the boat, and they started fighting among themselves. And they set fire, and in the fight, one of the boats started to burn. And Wamanagari, one of the Arawak rulers, sent a team to go and see what was going on and help their people to help them. And actually, that's the way the Europeans first came to Haiti. They didn't decide to settle there because they thought it was so beautiful and it looked so much like Spain. But the Arawak went to save them out at sea. And Columbus mentioned that he could not believe that people could swim the distance that these people swam to come and get them. And he could not believe they could do it as quickly as they did. And they took the people that were in the water, brought them ashore, came back to get more of their things, and that's when the other two boats came into in port. So that's the way they came in, not what you've been taught so far. Now, as they came in, there were 5 grand chiefs on the island. One of them was a woman, Anatauna. She was ruling the southern part, right of the Agua. And this woman fought longer in all the years and all the 5 years. Wakanagari, Kotumanama, Guayo Nex, and Kaunabo were all killed. And the woman was the last one to remain and continue to fight. She fought longer than anyone else. She fought the Europeans for 10 years. And they could not take her militarily. And there we have a letter from Ovando, the Spanish ruler of the time, who wrote to the queen, militarily they cannot take this woman, they have to use ruse to deal with her. That's when he came up with the plan that they're going to have this big peace deal, a big peace negotiation, and she agreed to go and talk to him. And she refused to go where he was and said, okay, you come where I am. And so she arranged to receive them. And when they came in, she had food and dancing and song and everything that you do to welcome people. And after they ate well, Ovando put his hand on his cross, and that was the sign to start slaughtering and killing the people. And when they took Anakauna, whom he said again in his journal, he wouldn't give her more than 25. But yet, he knew she couldn't be 25, because he had a daughter who had several children. She was a grandmother. And according to how they try to figure out what the years were, it is estimated she was about 60. But he felt she was 25. So usually most people write about Anakauna, describe her as a young girl, 18, 25, but in fact, they met at least 60-year-old woman. And this woman, when they captured her, they tied her behind a horse. And they drove from Leogan, what is today Leogan, Haiti, in the south of Haiti, to Santo Domingo, what is today the capital of Santo Domingo, tied behind a horse, dragged up and down the mountains. So she arrived practically with no flesh on, but yet she was alive. And they had what's supposed to be some kind of trial. She was found guilty, and the sentence was that she would hung and burnt the next morning. And they asked her if she had a last word. And her last word was, what is most important in life is not the fact that we die, because that will happen to everybody. But what is most important is to die with a word in your mouth that will keep the others fighting. And that's what this woman has left for us. Don't scream, don't yell, don't cry when you die. Think of what you can say to those who are there that will keep the fight going. And she told them, Haiti is the land of freedom. Haiti will be free no matter how long it takes for this freedom to come. They will not be able to do what they want to do with this country, with this land. So this is Anakauna, the woman who was ruling Haiti before the Europeans came. Down the road, we have Cecile Fatima. She was about 70 years old. Some of you have maybe read about Haitian history, know about Wakaima, which is considered, actually right now, the United Nations has a program where they're going to choose, they have chosen August 23rd as the International Day of the Abolition of Slavery. And they claim that they choose this because of what happened in Haiti. What happened in Haiti is this, according to what you will read in the book today. They'll talk to you about Wakaima. That's where all the different Africans who were enslaved, they decided to meet on the night of August 14, August 15. They met that night to decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to stay here and stay a slave for the rest of our lives and our children's lives? Or are we going to do something about the situation? And at first, of course, there was a long debate. People were saying, well, we don't have no weapons, we have no money, we can't do this, and we can't do that. All of the history books tell you about what Bookman said, and I will tell you a little later too. But what they don't tell you is the woman who organized this Congress, Cécile Fatima, she arranged it. And they said this woman walked from plantation to plantation without having any, you know that a slave could not just get up and go. You have to have permission to move from one spot to the next. And no one could understand how she managed to go from places that are very far from her own plantation at night, she could only do it at night, come back and, you know, be there the next morning when they're checking where is everybody. But she is the one who organized all this, and they met on August 14, in the night of August 14, to decide what they were going to do. As the discussion got very hot, and a lot of people were debating, well, mostly mentioning what we can't do because what we didn't have, a man called Bookman Duty rose up, and he said what historians have recorded as Bookman's prayer. And it goes like this. It says, the one who created the sun that shines upon our head, who makes the waves in the sea, and makes the thunder round into the clouds, this one is our Father, our own Father, and he watches over us. He sees everything, and he sees what the white man is doing to us. That is why he orders us that we must put a stop to this. We must end this. We must wrong this wrong. We must right this wrong. He promises that he will help us, but the work must be ours. And he gives us as a guide, he tells us to listen to the voice of liberty which speaks in each and every one of our hearts, who is our chief, liberty. That's what Bookman said. And from this, everybody else starts saying, yeah, that's right. If God is our Father, there's nothing we can't do, then of course we cannot remain slaves. We must change the situation. And everyone has agreed that they would go ahead and find a way to fight off the situation. But the organizer of this Congress is Cécile Fatima. This woman died at the age of 112 years old. And they tell us, no slave, no person could survive slavery more than what? 45 years. And they said, what's the limit? She lived to be 112. As a matter of fact, as you look into Haitian history, you cannot find any of the revolutionaries, female or male, who was younger than 50. They told us there's no such thing as slaves over 45. After 45, you will look like a 99-year-old somebody and you couldn't do anything. Yet most of our people began life at 45. Here we have Toya. This is a woman from Dahomey. She was an Amazon in the Dahomeyan army. You probably know Dahomey at the time had two armies, a male army and a female army, each with their own mission. So she is among the Amazon who was captured and brought into slavery. Amazons never stayed into slavery. They either killed themselves or killed the ones who bring slavery up on them. But they never remained on the plantation. So as the story goes for this woman, she said that she had decided after a few days on the plantation that she was going to get away from all this. And since she could not see, she didn't have any people who spoke her language, there was nobody to organize with, she decided death was the way out. So after a while, she did manage to run away and go into a forest, give herself death. But couldn't be done any old kind of way. She had to get the right leaves and prepare certain things and do different ceremonies so she would go in the right manner. And so as she was looking for the leaves, she heard a woman crying in the bush. So she went to see. This woman was about to give birth to a child. She helped the woman deliver, and the woman died. Before she died, she asked Toya, please take care of my baby. So now Toya, who came here to die, has the responsibility to take care of some baby boy. And she doesn't want to be in slavery. How do you take care of a baby boy in this situation? So she decides to go back to the plantation with the baby. And that baby later on, you know who it is? But before she goes back, she says she takes the baby up to one night to the sky, raised the baby up in the sky, and said to this child, I will remain alive to help you grow up strong. But you must do for this land what I could not do for Dahomey. I could not keep Dahomey free, so you must keep this land free. And this is the woman who raised Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Taught him how to use a sword, taught him how to use a knife at first, later on when he was bigger, a sword. She said that often they were separated. He was sold into a different plantation, she was sold into another one, but very often life brought them back again, sold into the same plantation. So she continued to have the opportunity to help raise them. And she, later on, had her own band, her own troop of warriors. She built her own troop during the Revolution time. And she was there for independence. And when she died in 1804, Dessalines was in the middle of some big meeting, and when they come to tell him that she was very sick. And he said, no, this woman raised me. Everything must stop, I must go to her. She gave me my first bath, I must give her her last bath. And Dessalines personally, Emperor Dessalines, bathed Toya her last bath before she was buried. But that, I have not read this, even though there are numerous newspaper articles that mention what this woman said, because these people were interviewed all the time during that period. Journalists were no different in 1800s than they are in today. But I don't find that in any of the history books written about Haiti. Here we have Lieutenant Sanit Bello. Yes, not only we had powerful men fighting, powerful officers, military men, we also had women. We have Lieutenant Sanit Bello here. Sit down a little further. This is Captain Guillemette Charlot. These women had fantastic reputation. As you read the newspapers and magazines of the time, you will discover these people. They had reputations like incredible. And were in all kinds. There were a lot of troops, in the different troops that fought for Haiti's liberation. There were mixed troops, a lot of mixed troops. Toussaint Louverture talked a lot about the mixed troops. In fact, Toussaint told us, many letters, he said that most of the troops were made up of at least 1/5 to 1/3 female. All the fighting troops were made up of at least 1/5 to 1/3 females. And that is not counting the troops that were made of females only. There were troops, there was nobody in them but women. But there were a lot of mixed troops. This is Marie-Claire Heureuse Félicité Bonheur Dessalines. This woman is a woman who will become Dessalines' wife. But her own story is also in her own right. She has a story of her own. First of all, this woman lived 103 years old. That's another person who went straight through slavery. And 100, 101, 102, 103. She was not a fighting person. She believed in peace. She was a health person. She worked a lot with natural health. She used vegetables and fruits to treat various diseases. As a matter of fact, there's on record a Swiss banker who came to Haiti in 1807 with his surgeon and his entire staff, because he had heard so much about how this woman, when she had different ways that when you had a wound, she could cure you and not leave any marks on your skin. So he wanted to have his surgery done in Bayinnah so that she would be there to treat him and so he would not have scars. Okay. So her thing is treating people. She had decided that her contribution in the revolution, she was not a fighting, as I said, a fighter. So her thing was, after a battle, she goes on the battlefield after a battle. Because at the time, the rule was, if you can't get up at the end of the battle, you are considered dead. Nobody's helped you off the battlefield. So she would go on the battlefield after the battle and separate the wounded from the dead and carry some of the wounded to her home and treat them. So that's what her contribution to the Revolutionary War. And it is one day, as she was doing this on the battlefield, that Jean-Jacques Dessalines met her and became madly in love with her. When he asked her to marry him, she said no, she didn't want to marry because she felt marriage has a way of removing people, deterring people from their mission in life. And since she has a mission, she did not want to take the responsibility of her home. Dessalines said, no, on the contrary, if you're my wife, you will have more means to carry on your mission. So they had a lot of people talk about it, and in the end she said, okay, I have 4 conditions. If we get on those 4 conditions, then the marriage would be possible. The first one is, you have a lot of children out there. Your father, a lot of children. You must recognize all of your children. 2, you must provide for these women to raise, the means for them to raise the children. Number 3, marriage must keep me free, must leave me free to think, speak, and act according to my own convictions. And number 4, your enemies are not automatically my enemies. The first 3 didn't bother him too much, but the last one, he got very upset. He said, this woman is crazy. I am here doing a revolution and you're telling me I'm going to walk into my house and find some Frenchman sitting down talking to you? What do you think this is? She says, well, that's the only way we can marry. Otherwise, when you go your way, I go my way. But if we can agree to this, because any person can make a mistake. If I have to be automatically enemy to somebody because you enemy to him, we don't have a chance of knowing if something is not right in your point of view. I have to have the freedom to re-examine things. So in the end, he agreed, and they got married in 1801. And through the course of their lives, and I'm going to give you one example. One time there was an attempt to arrest. And among the people arrested, there is this French botanist, Descourtil, was also accused of being one of the people who plotted against them. So they were looking for Descourtil. Dessalines was looking for him. And at the end of the day, he comes home furious and he's telling her what happened and whatnot. And since he remains one person to find, he has to find this Descourtil because he's part of all this. What he didn't know is Descourtil had already reached, when he heard that they were looking, he came to Mrs. Dessalines and tell her, here's what happened, I was not involved, etc., etc. So she said, okay, I'm going to talk to Dessalines, and if what you say proved to be true, I will try to defend your case. So Dessalines came, and he's saying how he's going to take this man, he's going to have him shot, and this and that, and Pharaoh Rose is telling him, well, as a ruler, that's not correct. There is a law, there are different people to do different things. You're the one who's involved. You should not be involved in judging the case. The case should go to a tribunal, and they should decide who is guilty and who is not. In the end, she convinced him. But both of them, one knows the other very well. And at the end of the conversation, he says to her, you must know where he is. She says, yes, he's under our bed. So he sent for somebody to arrest the guy and the tribunal judged the different people who were accused. And it was proven that this man was not, in fact, part of the plot. But it's a good thing they had this agreement that she did not have to be automatically the, his enemies didn't have to be hers automatically. We'll take a quick look also at Suzanne Simon Louverture, who's Toussaint's wife. This woman is a very large woman, 250, 300 pounds, they say. She had a very quiet life. Didn't want to be involved in politics. Didn't want to have nothing to do with Toussaint's public life. As a matter of fact, she refused to even accompany him to receptions. Because her thing was she has to take care of her home, take care of her gardening. She was a fabulous farmer. She could grow. They tell you, when this woman puts something into the soil, it has to give, and much. And so that was her concentration, that was her work. Until they came and take Toussaint to exile in France. And they take him with his wife and children and everybody around her. And when they got to France, Napoleon ordered, he said, it's not necessary to torture Toussaint. He will never speak. But every torture that he should receive must go to his wife. His wife was tortured from the time she arrived in France, and even after Toussaint's death, they continued to torture her. In 1805, when she finally was released from the jails of France, they had removed every single nail on her fingers and toes, broke her bones in many different places, and as she went in a woman of 300 plus pounds, she came out less than 90 pounds. Yes. She was first released to England. England was the big humanitarian at the time. They are the ones who convinced France to release her and whatnot. Once she got to England, this is 1805. Haiti is independent, right? So she could be just brought back to her home. But of course, that would be too nice to expect from people like these people that we know so well. So England told her, oh no, you couldn't go to Haiti because now Dessalines is ruling Haiti and he's looking for you to kill you. She says, how could it be? He is I don't know what it is in English, my mon compère. I am his child's godmother, and he is the godfather of one of my children. So we are very tight. There's no way Dessalines would want to harm me. They said, you don't know him. This new Dessalines here, he's after you. France refused to allow this woman to go back to Haiti. But the climate of, England. But the climate of England, the British climate was very bad for her health. And at some point they were afraid that she might die, but they didn't want her to die in their country. So they told her, since they were very, very good and kind and humanitarian, and they would send her to some place similar to Haiti, but which is not Haiti. So they sent her to Kingston, Jamaica, 17 minutes by plane. And but convinced that there was no way she could go to Haiti because she would be harmed. So that's Suzanne. She died there in Kingston, Jamaica. The last woman I will mention to you is Marie-Jeanne. This woman was the head of the security force which gave security to people like Toussaint, Dessalines, Christophe. He himself said he never feels secure unless Marie-Jeanne's troop is with him. She's a great person in disguise. They tell her you never know when she comes in front of you. She hated the term mulatto. She says, don't call her that. She does not have a mule. Neither her father nor her mother is a mule. So there's no way you could call her mulatto. So she says, you could call me a mixed blood if you want, but don't call me a mulatto. And she had a troop. She had organized as one of those revolutionary women who had a troop of about 300 women, all female troop. And they were fighting for liberation until the thing became more organized and an army, a liberation army was created. So since she had promised to her mother, who headed the troop before her, that she could never mix the troop with another troop. The idea was they could support another troop that's doing something positive in the way of revolution and freedom, but they could not become one with anyone. So she could not join the army. But they worked with the army, always as independent. And they say 1 minute she would come to you as a 15-year-old boy, black boy. The next minute she'll be some white man colonizer. The next minute she was female, she was young, she was old, she was mixed blood, she was white. She really had this capacity to switch up a lot, and she did a lot of the spying. In fact, she created in independent IT what would be the first CIA bureau. The woman had 2,000 spies working for her around the world. 2,000 spies. Jewish, French, Germany, all of that's part of, she's a major part as to the success of the revolution. Because it was because of the information this woman would gather around Europe from all her spies working all over for her that allowed to send Dessalines to the right strategy to counteract the moves that the various European countries were doing to keep Haiti into slavery. So Marie-Jeanne is, and nobody knows how she, after they killed Dessalines, they were about killing a lot of the people who were closest to him. But no one can say for sure, no one has an idea as to what happened to her. And my opinion, and that's only an opinion, this one was so great at disguising, she probably turned into something else. I don't know. But something. And besides, even Dessalines, I came across 2 quotes where Dessalines said, he was never sure when he was in her presence. It was after when they worked together, it took him a while before he was sure this is Marie-Jeanne that was there, because she would come up at so many different ways. So if he was not sure about her, I don't know if too many people could recognize her, really. So this is some of the fabulous women that I've come across in studying contribution of women in Haitian history. So I wanted to bring that part. The second part, Voodoo, which means be aware of the spirit in all things. That's what the word Voodoo means. To be aware that the spirit is the guiding force in everything that you see. It's not the matter that is important. It is the spirit. So every time you are aware and act as such, if I know that spirit is what matters, then I also know that I have the power to do all kinds of things. If I have the right mind, the right spirit, and if I can use it properly, then I can do all kinds of things. If I'm limited by the illusion of matter, then I'm also limited in what I can do and where I can go. I'm limited in space and time. So basically, most people have this concept, this idea of Voodoo, which is what the Europeans have put in their newspapers, in their movies. You take a doll and you stick it, and somebody someplace dies, and that kind of crap. Which has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. My own analysis is this. Every people to whom it is given the opportunity to come with a concept of the divine, because that's what, when you create a religion, that's what it is. You come with a concept of the divine in your relationship to it. Okay? The Jews came with a concept of the divine, their relationship to it. Christians, and I'm not talking about Romans or Italians, okay? Know that Christianity, where was Christianity? Ethiopia. Okay. So they had a concept of the divine and their relationship to it. So they brought in their expression of this concept is what we call the Christian religion. Now, as different people take a hold of somebody's concept or come up with their own, it will give a new religion. Whether I go and borrow yours and change here a little bit there, or I just sit back and close my eyes and come up with my own concept, it will still be a religion. So what are the fundamental concepts in Voodoo? Very simple. If you know anything about Voodoo, you probably have heard about loi, the word loi, which means law. It's written L-O-A, but it's the same as L-A-W. Okay? Or in French, the word is L-O-I, loi, which means a rule, a principle that you must know. And in Voodoo, you talk about serving the law, serving the loi. Okay? You're not talking about adoring some spirit, some concept, some image. You're talking about serving. So if you have laws that you must know and that you must serve, then there's something that you must accomplish. If we look back a little bit, the mother of Voodoo is Ifa in Africa.
Yes.
Okay? When you look into Ifa, you find out Ifa tells you the purpose for man being here is to build good character. Know who you are, build good character, and act in accord with your spirit. If you do that, you're in heaven. It's very simple. It's not about sticking dolls, it's about understanding. Now, when the people create their own expression, what we did in IT, fed by Ifa, we reshaped it and created our own expression as to what is divine and what our relationship is to it. And every book, every, what do you call it, spiritual books, but holy books, okay, you will find that they say, in different ways, but they all say the same thing. There'll be something like somewhere in the beginning, God created by his words, he brought all of this creation about, right? Scientists say it a little differently. They say Big Bang. What is Big Bang? Big sound. Okay, so by the sound, matter came to be. Okay, no disagreement there. You take the Holy Quran, it will still tell you, through his mouth, everything came. Same thing. So as I look at all this, and I look at our concepts, I have to look at all these different books. What is the Bible? That the actual Bible, not the Book of the Dead, not the original, okay? But those that they've made up from. You have, it's the history of a people in a space and time and their connection to the divine. You take the Torah. What is the Torah? It's the history of the Jews and their connection to the divine. So I said, well, let me see. What is my history? What is there in my arms? And as I look at our IT's artistry, I say, okay, the principal rule, I find this law everywhere, that out of the mouth, the sound which must bring about what must be, must come out of somebody's mouth. And in our history, we have somebody called Bookman Duty, who one night was the first person to put into clear terms, here's what must happen. You must know that you are God's child. I say, you're God's child. You must know that he wants you to free yourself from this slavery here. You must know that he will make you strong and support you in what you do. You must fight against these people, and you must listen to the voice of liberty, which speaks in the heart of each and every one of you. Even as I analyze the name of this man, there is no hazard. Everything has a reason. His name is Bookman, the man of the book. What is a book? The book brings the words. Bookman what? Bookman Duty. The man who is the book of what our duty is. And he's the one who ignites the fire of revolution in our country. Down the road, I look at Toussaint Vertu. This man is named as a slave. He's called François Dominique Breda. François, which means belonging to France and the French people. Dominique, born on a Sunday. Breda, carrying a load. As he began to fight, as he entered the Revolutionary War, he gets rid of this first name, François. He gets rid of this second name, Dominique, and he takes the name Toussaint, All Saints. And finally, he gets rid of Breda and takes the name L'Ouverture, the one who opens the way. So what's his name? In the Revolution, he is the man who represents all the saints and who opens the way. In Voodoo, we have a law called Legba. Legba is the one who gives power to all the other laws. And they say Legba is the one who opens the gate, opens the way. So what did we see? As we analyze the physical characteristics of Legba and the physical characteristic of Toussaint, we find them practically identical. As we look at the function of Legba and the function of Toussaint, again, we find them the same. As we look at their mission, we find them the same. So we find Legba in Toussaint. We find Ogun in Dessalines. We find Oshun in Marie-Claire Rose. And finally, what you see is that in your belief system, you have a knowledge of yourself. If you know your own belief system, then you know who you are. And you can understand what your mission is. And you have a better understanding as to how you should act to be successful in your life. That, to me, is the most important thing that happened in the years of the revolution in Haiti, is that these people did not just go out there fighting. They were not just good fighters, strong fighters, but these were people who knew who they were. So everything could become a weapon in their hands. And when they didn't need a weapon, everything would become a tool in their hands. You're sitting on chairs right now, right? Those chairs are what? Are they weapons or tools? It's a tool. As you sit on them, they are tools. You use them to accomplish something, to hold your weight. It's a tool. Now, if we were to be attacked the next minute, what would happen? Intelligent people would get up off their seats and take the chairs, and then the chairs would be what? They would become our weapons, of course. Everything in front of you can always be either your tool or your weapon according to circumstances. And that's what intelligent people know. Depending on what's going on, you don't want to use this as a tool, as a weapon, when there is no war going on. It's a time for using it as a tool. And you should be able to know everything that you have can either be a tool or a weapon. Circumstances will determine what is the best way to use it. And circumstances, in the circumstance, you have to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you cannot judge the circumstance properly. Then you will have a tendency to take a tool and make it a weapon, and take a weapon and use it as a tool. And that's the most important thing you need to know. Who you are, know what the circumstances call for, and make a use of everything that is in front of you. That's what real wealth is all about. It's not accumulation of things. You can have all the things accumulated somewhere. But if you don't know what to use and when, you don't know at what moment, a time to be silent and a time to speak. That's what eloquent people know. We all can talk. But when you can talk and touch and affect others is because you know to make the difference, clear difference between silence and speaking. It's not what you say. It's not what you say. It's how you say it. Thank you for your attention. Yes, he is from Jamaica. He was sold into Saint Domingue when he was 12 because he was already not very submissive and accepting of the situation in Jamaica.
Also, I in C.L.R. James' book of the Black Jacob, to my memory serves me right, there was a song that we used to sing in Voodoo, and the chorus of this song was that we must kill the slave. Anybody who enslaved us, we must kill them. It used to be a song that we would sing. And of course, the Catholic Church took us away from us. That's right.
There's a lot that is being taken away from us. And as a matter of fact, the taking away has not stopped. It continues every single day. Even today in IT, with what our so-called intellectuals are producing, it is showing that there is very little understanding of who we are and what our history is all about. As a matter of fact, a big deal a few months ago was that some Protestant church had decided that they were going to uproot, would be the word, I don't know. My English is very weak these days. To dig out the whole Bookman. They want Bookman out of the history. Because all of that stuff is voodoo, magic, and blah, blah, blah. They have all kinds of excuses, and they want that removed from the history, and they want to burn the place where the ceremony took place, where the Congress met, where the slaves had met to discuss it, and they want to build a church there.
He might burn it down.
Huh?
Oh, he might burn it down. Oh, sometimes, Bookman, his spirit might burn down the church.
Easily. I don't think they're going to make it.
What I have to say is, about 6 or 8 years ago, I was listening to family radio. That is Pat Robertson. And this was one morning. He generally come on in the morning. And he said the reason why Haiti was in the trouble it is because before the revolution, with their voodoo, they had asked Satan to grant them the victory. So Satan granted the victory. So this is what the problem that they have. And I said to myself, no, if God would allow these Africans to kill all these righteous white people, then you want to tell me that Satan is stronger than God?
Very good comment. Yes. Well, there's a lot of this kind of comment about IT and all the different situations. But just to make a Wakanagari is the first, the Yahweh Hoover, who sent the people to get the white man from the sea as they had set fire to one of their boats and were in trouble out at sea. When they came in, of course, in the first pages of his journal, Columbus had no words important enough to describe how good these people were, how wonderful they were. They didn't know anything about stealing. They ignored lying. These were people straight out of God's heaven, okay? Now, as he passed a rule that every hour must bring him a cup of gold a day. And some people started coming up short. They only had half, or a third, or 3/4. And the rule was if your cup was not full, they cut your left hand. And if you bring A second time, a cup that's not full, they cut your right hand. And when they cut your hand, you cannot be treated or anything. You have to bleed to death or whatever. So as he, then he started changing. These are wicked people. These are conniving people. Liars like these he had never seen.
And warlike people.
Of course. Wicked, and that's when they became, the beginning of his book, they don't eat flesh. They only eat vegetables. After the law of the gold and everything else goes into place, they become cannibals.
Yes.
But I only asked one question. I said, according to them again, because we always have to go back to them for almost all of the facts, right? Because we have nothing of our own. They claim that there were, some of them say, 1.5 million Arawaks on the island. Some of them say as many as 3.5 million Arawaks on the island. Others say, there are even some others who says there were 10 million people on this island at the arrival of Columbus. Now, one should know if it was 1.5 or if it was 10 million. But irregardless of which, 11 years later, they said there was less than 100,000 souls.
Yeah.
20 years later, there was nothing. Now, how come less than 10,000 civilized white men come into an island where there is 1.5 million cannibals, and after 11 years, the 1.5 million cannibals have disappeared, and then the 10 million civilized white men, the 10,000 civilized white men are there? I have a problem.
The white man.
I have a big problem.
Now, I know Voodoo is the original word is from Africa.
Speak aloud, please.
Oh, okay. I said, I know that Voodoo is the proper word from Africa. Now, is it true, because I've heard different theories, is it true that the word voodoo came from the French, and it was some woman or something from France, or that's what the French people start calling it? And then also there's another woman, I can't remember her name, but she took Voodoo or Voodoo to New Orleans, and she was a big, a big important person, having curing people. I forgot her name, I read something, but
Well, there is, I don't know if the French coined it or couldn't pronounce it and mispronounce it or whatever. There's all kinds of possibilities as to how Voodoo became voodoo and voodoo and whatever else it has. There are about 5 or 6 words that they've come up with. They don't even agree among themselves what they say in French. Okay? So I would venture into trying to explain why, how come, and no, I can't deal with that. But what I can say for sure, as far as the spread of the belief, and we have to understand that in both, there are 3 cases. When they finished slaughtering all the Arawaks in Haiti, they sent for Africans to repopulate the land and continue their enslavement and exploitation system. Now, as they went on into different islands and depopulated and annihilated the different populations, like in the case of Trinidad, it was 2,500 Haitians, no, 2,350 Haitians that they brought to Trinidad to repopulate Trinidad. Which is why you will find that Trinidadians of 70 years and less speak Haitian, just like us. Because until they started a big program of schooling and getting everybody, in speaking English and whatnot, the average Trinidadian spoke Haitian, okay? What they call Creole. Now they did the same, there's the same thing as the same case of from Haiti, they took a number of people and repopulated St. Lucia. They did the same thing in different parts, in some I'm not sure, I don't know about Martinique, but I know in New Orleans, there was a group of Haitians they brought in at some certain point to, certain areas. So I know that part of the transfer is like physical people. They just come in, they say, okay, they want 2,000 of these beasts there. And they count 2,000, they put on a boat, and they bring them someplace else. They don't care if she's your wife, and this is the husband, and this is the sister, and that one, but I have my 2,000, I don't need that one. That's it. Okay, so a lot of, the cutting of the family, the cutting and recutting, it didn't happen just once. Besides the grabbing people in Africa and taking people and separating and smashing families apart, it continued throughout the years. We have to understand that also.
I wanted to say that I've heard that many of them claim that many slaves, their families did not make any attempts at all to stay together. But there is documented evidence that many families tried to stay together.
Of course, who wrote the stuff? Okay, what do you want to, okay, he also is, he's telling us, and he's doing a good job. A lot of us are swallowing it. Oh, well, it was your own brother that sold you. Sure. Yes, it happened. It's true. In how many cases? Between those of us that were sold and those you went with your net and grabbed like animal and brought into the, how many of them were? I wasn't there. So if the one who committed the crime is telling you about how it went down, of course, he's going to do his very best to put it in such terms that at the end, look at, hey, listen, and white man, I admire him for this. He's really good.
Yeah.
He can come into your home. He will rape your mama, slaughter your dad, kill your brother, do something to your sister, your cousin, your grandma, your great-grandma. And when it's all done, he tells you the story, and you're going to say, oh, the poor white man. Why these people are terrible?
But excuse me, why do you think he didn't rape the father?
Excuse me?
What makes you think he
Oh, I don't say he didn't. I was just speaking one thing for one group. I'm
Every
sure.
white man, if he comes in contact with a black person, whether it's a woman or a man, he will rape them first.
That's true.
But
This is
No argument from me. Yes, brother.
But excuse me, but the one thing I'll say is, and I'm glad to hear what you're saying, And by the way, I do want to add one thing first. Aruba was the only place that the so-called Arawaks, most people run to Aruba because these crackers had no interest in Aruba. If you had gone there, you see the land was very barren. So you find that there's a percentage of Arawaks still on the island of Aruba because the crackers had no interest in there. But what I was saying to you was, just 2 weeks ago, a white lady came in to speak. And she told a very sad story about how she not being accepted for her family, and almost everybody has started crying. As she tell the story, I could see tears coming out each on every eye. And my literally just, and the thing that I had to say to them here, a cracker is a cracker, it's a cracker. It's a little white baby, that damn bastard ain't no good. You understand what I'm saying? And we don't have that kind of mentality. I'm glad to hear what you say. Because literally just 2 weeks ago, when they give a sad story how she's rejected by blacks. A lot of you look so sad for her. A lot of you look sad for her. No, I don't know her. I'm just calling her. But she did come in and speak. And people was for this woman. So I know this woman for 10 years. But she's still white. She's just guilty because her skin is white. Period. I don't care what you do. You are white. You are guilty. You're in a race war.
Actually, it's not her skin that's the problem. It's her spirit.
Well, it comes from that too.
But the skin allows us to identify more easily what spirit inhabited this body. But it's not actually this time really the problem. But we are not serious about staying alive or being free. See, another example the women in our country gave us during Revolution time. This is from letters from Toussaint that we learned. as the troop, before troop, they called them band at first, when they just started to organize in a more or less disorganized way. They said there would be at least 1/3 would be female with their children. There are lots of 2-year-old and 6-month-old children in the Haitian Revolution. They're never mentioned in history. And in many cases, Toussaint said, the women would go first on the battlefield. The women and the children, because they were more supple, and they could crawl in the bushes and go right up in the face of the army, the enemy camp, before they're being able to do very much about it, because the guns of that time they were not created to point this way. They could shoot very well this way, but they couldn't really do this way. And besides, the way that these people crawled up, so he said they would crawl up all the way real close. And when they got real close, the women would send out a certain noise. And the noise would confuse the other, the enemy camp. And the children would walk up to them. Boys 8, 9, 10 years old would be the first one to go and face the enemy. And the most important thing in the strategy was to get a hold of the cannon. Because as long as the cannon was there, the cavalry could not enter the battlefield. So the women's job was to do something to get rid of the cannons. And it says some of them would get so desperate and so determined, they would take their 6-month-old or 3-month-old child's head and put it in the cannon's mouth. And the cannon could no longer shoot. Then we could come on the field. Or sometimes they would take their own hands and put it in. But one way or the other, the determination was such, these women didn't have any problem. If I have to go so the war will continue, so victory will come, it makes no difference. That's the way you have to be serious about your freedom. If you're not, don't get on there and hey, you're going to say, yeah, about this cracker and this and that, and then when he goes, you go. No. When you're not ready, it's best to shut up. Be quiet. Be silent. Because it's serious business fighting for freedom. It's not a joke. It's serious. And you don't do this thinking about getting your Lexus and getting your condo and, I don't know, your next PC. You can't do it at the same time. You're going to have to make a choice. You can have, the Lexus don't bother, you can have the Lexus. If it's a means to whatever your strategy is, no problem. But be careful that you don't become attached to a thing while you have no strategy as to our survival with that thing. Everything you're going to get, remember, it's either a weapon, a tool, or a toy. Don't waste time getting toys. If you're getting something, make sure it's a tool or a weapon. If it's not one of the two, you don't need it. Any questions?
What is it contemplate?
Sorry.
Yes, I want to elaborate more on the white situation spirit inside the white body.
I'm sorry?
I want you to elaborate more on the white spirit inside the white.
Well, don't think I am maybe not qualified. I'm certainly not prepared to elaborate on his spirit. But I think what is most important for us is to know who we are. When we know who we are, we can identify white men even when they look like us. We have to be very careful. The fro don't do it. The head tie don't do it. The big African garb don't do it. The jewelry don't do it. None of the stuff, outside stuff, make us who we are. You gotta be, if you're a black man, if you're a black woman, stop naked. You it. With nothing. You it. With millions, you still it. Things are not gonna make you. You're gonna be who you And that's the most important thing. You know who you are. Then you know your purpose. You know why you're here. Then you know why you choose to be here tonight rather than be at the movie looking at Titanic. That's important. Once you know who you are, you can always recognize a white man, no matter what skin he comes in. Yes, sir.
What happened to Susan? Susan had two sons, didn't he?
Susie?
Two sons. He had two sons?
Yes. They were all taken into exile with him. Placide, who was 9, was starved to death. Saint Jean, who was 12, was... Did they cut him off? Because they kept threatening his wife, Suzanne, when they brought food to her. They would always tell her, "Oh, today we have a good meal for you. This is Saint Jean's heart, or this is his liver, or this is whatever." So every time they brought her the food, they always told her it was a part of her son. So we don't know if they actually did cut him off. Then very, very likely, being who they are. I don't find any problem with, And Isaac was killed. He was shot. Actually, only his daughters actually survived their father. There was 4 of his sons that were taken back to France were dead. Okay, only one son is in Moise. Moise did. That's what I know. Yes.
What do you see Haiti progressing in relation to also the other countries in the Caribbean in terms of unity and trying to work together? Where do you see for the community to not just...
Mr. Walton, is that a private potential country? I'm trying to listen. What's your question? A little louder, please.
Where do you see Haiti progressing in relation to the other countries in the Caribbean, as I understand that both countries are trying to work together to develop a certain amount of unity in terms of Cuba? What is your projection for that region?
Well, as things stand right now, right this minute as I speak, Haiti is in very, very bad shape. Very bad mental shape, very bad physical shape. We have made no progress between the time of the coup, everybody was talking about it, and what has gone down since, and what's going on there. The people who run the country are, I guess, at best, I would say, in total ignorance of who they are. And that's very dangerous, to have a country being run by people who don't know who they are. The intellectuals, I was telling my sister as we were driving this way, intellectuals are going through, I would term it abusive self-hatred. Actually, some of the most involved people in Haiti today, people with PhDs from this or that university, mostly from La Sorbonne in France and all of this, their big thing seems to be, their theme seems to be denial of Haitian history. Everybody has a theme that something did not happen. That's what everybody's pumping out, and they get lots of money, big book published from France, what Haïma didn't happen. I'm expecting, any day I'm sure there'll be a book that says Dessalines did not exist, Toussaint never existed, etc., etc. I expect it. We've even gone through, we have a great doctor who has even better, he has the best thing that's out there now. He tells us the Haitian Revolution was actually realized by people from the Star Series.
Why not?
Yes. And it gets better. After the folks from Syrians, with the French and the British and the Germans and everybody militarily, then the French decided they didn't want to sign papers with those folks from Syria. So they went in the bush or something, or shackles, whatever, and pulled out gasoline and Toussaint and them and brought them in the forefront to sign with them. Okay? This is where we are right now. Very dangerous time.
And also to add to that, this brother just asked you, see, also, something very compromising. We have a tendency of forgetting the parent, what they did to us. We welcome them so much. We so much into that French nonsense, like the sister just said. Like the writers, all of them, you know. And Toussaint was a perfect example. As a child, I would see that. Not to trust them. And up to 1998, we keep doing the same thing. I mean, of course, it's like, you know, the black race, period. But since I'm from Haiti, we have a way of welcoming them. If we have a party or lecture or anything, if one, they're not there, and say, oh, how beautiful, today was there. I've been going to few lectures, and also too much politics. And we become like, we want to retaliate all the time. We don't see the deep, the surface of the problems. I mean, at the root of the problem. But once the surface, like you did to me, therefore, after 10 years, I'm going to do back to you. And that same continuation keep going back. And there's no cleansing, it's only destruction. So I always see, like, I was on the sister, she had to go back to Haiti to give lectures. Because we do need that.
I live in Haiti. I just come up here for a couple of days.
Okay. Because I was telling
and I give lectures,
even
though I may get shot anything.
Okay, all right, thank you. Because we do need her over there because, I don't know, she can, what I'm saying, I don't know if you see it, if it's true or not, because it's just what you see. I have people here, like my cousins, every time they're talking about, like, well, when I was in Haiti, things were not good, this and that, the people say, well, yeah, you're not showing a good vibration. We don't realize every time we say Haiti, not with the people, it's not actually the country, but the people are also helping them from not growing, because vibration go all over.
Yeah. Talking about vibration, the name of the country is IET. The Arawak spent a lot of time explaining to the invaders, and they wrote it all down, the meaning of IET. They said that IET means the land which forces you to rise to your better self. But the explanation they give, and that all I shouldn't say, is IET means mountainous land. But it's a different kind of mountain. It's talking about the spiritual mountain in you. You must rise to your better self. And they simply said, because they learned, even a man, an old man like Wakanagai, who was the first person to get in touch with him. He learned to speak Spanish, Latin, and Portuguese in 6 months. 112. That's what they say. It's not I said. They said they couldn't understand how come a man 112 could learn 3 languages in 6 months. And as he was reading the Bible, he said to Christopher Columbus, because Columbus had offered him the Bible, he said, but you said this about your God. I see more horrible things in this book than we've ever heard in this country of all the years put together. Columbus said, I know what your problem is. Your eyes. So he plucked his 2 eyes out of the socket and let them hanging down there. And he said, since you're the chief of your people, I'm waiting for you tomorrow morning. You must come and defend me. So the next morning, they put Wakanagai on a horse, handed off the 112-year-old man, so he would go to war. To me, this shows the fear these people had. They couldn't even attack a 112-year-old man without plucking out his ears and tying up his hands. The witness of his and their wickedness. Okay. But he had already put up, he recorded a lot of this conversation with Bayinnah in a different way. And Bayinnah told specifically, IT must have a Y, because that's the only letter in your alphabet that has spirit. That's why IT must be written A-Y-I-T-I. But he went from he had named the country Española. E-S-P-A-N, Voodoo, I got the thing it's called, O-L-A. Okay. Española, small Spain. That's why he baptized the country. All right? Now, nobody can understand. How did he start? His first memos, it's E-S-P-A-N-O-L-A. And then later down the road, you start finding this Hispaniola with H-I-S-P-A. Where did it come from? Nobody asked any question. Nobody knows why. And why? After he wrote down about IT, and then we're going to find this H again. What is this H doing there? H-A-I, H-A-Y. They're changing the spelling so many different times. Because with Desaline, it's A-Y-I-T-I. With Henri Christophe, we find the name written H-A-Y-T-I. With Pétion, we find the name written H-A-I-T-I. Why? Why all these changes in the spelling of the name of a country? Everything has a meaning. We must find out why. The Arawaks were too long to say, you must send out the sound in a particular way, not mix it with anything. See, we have a habit of saying, La République d'Haïti, which changes everything about what the sound means. Acting like fools, not thinking, not questioning anything. The sound is energy. Every holy book says matter was created with what?
Word.
With sound. So, if IT has a meaning and it creates a certain type of people, I'm sure Haiti is something else, though I may not know what it means. It's real. We have to get, and the same thing is true about our names. We go through big debates about our names. Look carefully. Why did the white man have to go through all these changes? You cut off half your food and do this and do that to force his name onto you. There's a reason. It wasn't the most practical. He usually likes to do the most practical thing. Makes no difference if I have a slave called Salim or a slave called John. If John and Salim will carry everything I need to carry from one place to the other and will do all my bidding, what do I care? But yet, he cared very much. He went to great length to make sure you had this name and not that one.
To take away your identity.
Like in roots.
And as we study again our history, I realized every person, whether did anything worthwhile for IT, had to get rid of that name that was given to them. François Dominique Breda had to become Toussaint Louverture to do the opening of the web. Jean Duclos had to become Jacques Dessalines to eliminate all obstacles and take us to independence. And those who remain attached, like Pétion, like Boyer, who spent all his life pleading a dear daddy to come and recognize him and give him his name. These people did nothing for the country, nothing for people. And they couldn't, because they didn't know who they were. Somebody who don't know who they cannot help others, get into the business of helping yourself. Find out who you are. That's your big business. Once you get that down together, then you could go about community work. Yes?
Male-female relationships in Haiti today.
How do you expect that to be when people don't know who they are? It can't get any better. It's total nonsense. The kind of trash. Okay, a simple example. A few ago, I was called, a friend of mine who was at the house, he's a journalist, received a call that he should go and do a piece on this old man, 100 years old, who's being kicked out of his house because he can't pay the rent. That's weird. In this country, they're going to put an old man, 100 years old, out because he can't pay some rent? So, okay, I'm going to go with you. I want to see this man. So I go over there, talk to the landlord. The rent is $1,000 a year, which is something like $100 and something per year. I said, okay, I'll take the rent. I'll pay the rent, be the old man wherever it is. All right. Went to meet the man. Start talking to the man. The man is 122 years old. 122 years old. He lives alone, washes clothes, iron his clothes, go to the market, cook his food, mind all his business. Till about 9-10 months ago, got sick, and he's very incapable. He's no longer capable of doing all this. But he still walks, he still talks. He is perfect. You don't have to shout to talk to me. As a matter of fact, I have this picture here. I'll show you. I said, 122 years old. I said, didn't you try to do anything? Oh, we've gone to all the ministries, we've contacted this, the president, nobody can do it. 1,000 gourds, less than $200. Nobody can help a 122-year-old man. In a country where they say the lifespan is 45 years. And we have a man 122 years old, and there is no government, anything, willing or ready to do anything for him. And he spent his life helping people. That's what we become. Years ago when I was little, anybody could beat me in the street if I wasn't acting right. I didn't have to know them. They'd just stop me and say, what? Uh-huh. And if I dared to say to my mother, somebody hit me and I got another beat. Today, you can see children jumping up in front of cars or whatever. It's not your child. It's mine. That's my thing. That's not my thing, so I don't care.
Their own parents can help these days.
Excuse me?
Their own parents can help these days.
Sure. So, there's a lot of talk about women liberation, but it's not based on anything. Women liberation what? I say 19, we need to know that women liberation actually women wrote the book. If you don't know your history, you have nothing to stand on. Because when a man come to me, and I tell you, here are my conditions in order for us to get together, and you start giving me something, let me tell you something. In 1801, here's what Claire was as Jean-Jacques Dessalines, the liberator of the country. So who are you? You think there is a man who can discuss, who can debate with me? There isn't one. Because I stand on something. When I said to my parents I was changing my name, they were about to make a whole bunch of fuss. I said, listen, Jean-Jacques Dessalines did it, Toussaint Louverture did it, Cap Wallamore did it. Look what they did for the country. My father shut his mouth. I stand on solid ground. The knowledge of who I am. You're going to talk to me about women liberation and IET and then talk about Bello and I don't know what, some nonsense. That's who they're going to show you as, I don't know, models of women. And they know nothing about Suzanne Louverture. They know nothing about Michael Willis. That's not going to do anything for them.
Good point.
Tell them who you are. Tell them the people around you, the people you come from. When we have plenty, black women has for years. It's not yesterday. It's not with IET. IET has strong black women because IET was populated by strong African women. Like the Amazon Toya, who always had been in the army since she was 10. There was no big deal for her, knowing how to train Jean-Jacques Dessalines would do what he did. Was natural. She stood on something. 900 years before Christ, we had women armies, women this, women that. If I'm looking for strong women models, I gotta go to Africa. How could I be talking about Bella?
Excellent.
Bookman was born in Jamaica and sold into slavery into Haiti?
That's correct, into Haiti.
And one more thing, is it true that Haiti, a lot of the continental Africans came from Dahomey?
That's true. A large population, about 70% of the 18th century population was Dahomean.
How about Ife or Igbo? Igbo?
You know, we have a lot of everybody, but the dominant group in 18th century, early, late 1700s, early 1800s, that was Dahomean.
Which is now Benin.
That's correct. That's correct. Yes.
But we also have good numbers from Nigeria too.
We have people from all over. I have people from all over. We have people from South Africa. When you trace it all down, you have people from all over the country. But the dominant group was the group from Dahomey. Because then we had entire battalions of people. Like, as a matter of fact, you'll probably read in some of the history books that Dessalines had a troop of Polish troop giving him security, 24 semi-brigade. And they were Polish. A lot of people talk about they were Polish, they were Poles. But actually, when you get into it, what happened is, Dessalines called them the Poles because he said those Africans spoke Haitian the same way the Poles spoke French, with a big accent. That's why he nicknamed them the Poles. Just like there was a group that they nicknamed the Swiss. But it was not no white man from Europe that was giving Dessalines security. Then a lot of people try to say that. But that's not it. They said that was just the thing because of the way they spoke our language. So they said they just like the Poles speak French with a big accent. Yeah. Other questions?
The role of the Catholic Church right after independence.
Excuse me?
Tell us about the role of the Catholic Church after independence, right after independence.
Well, a lot of people, it stayed. For example, we can say for the independence, for the Declaration of Independence, Dessalines wanted to have a Voodoo ceremony of grace. Say thank you to all the spirits from Africa who aided us in getting where we are. All the other generals opposed to it. So he said, okay, I will submit to the wish of the majority. What do you want? And Te Deum. And Te Deum. You know what that is? I don't know if that's what it's a Latin word. Te Deum is a type of Catholic mass.
Yeah, to God.
Huh?
To God. Praise to God.
Okay, yeah.
To be your God.
All right. So that's what they wanted. So that's what they did. And that's why a lot of people, we have a saying in the country that says, independent Africa, Voodoo, put up the, how do I put it in English? The, not the stove, the pot, the cooking pot of independence was under fire by Voodoo. But the Catholic Church took it down. See, when it was time to cook, it was Voodoo who did the cooking. When it was time to eat, it was Catholicism who took down the pot and ate. And that's what happened. Because right after Dessalines with Pétion, it was a whole thing, was no longer independence, actually. When you really study Pétion, he went right into, well, he wants to please, he's trying to do everything that pleases France in the hope that his colonizing, his colonist father would recognize him. So everything was all about do like they do it in France. If you want to be right, if you want to be good, a good Haitian, walks like a Frenchman, talks like a Frenchman, dances like a Frenchman. You take, during Dessalines, somebody who loves to dance. But the rule is you do not dance with weapon. You must always arm. Dessalines said, no, out of the question. I'm running a war. It's out of the question that I will be without weapon. So, he says, okay, since I love to dance, and you can't dance any of these dances with a weapon, what I need is a dance that you dance with a weapon. So, he asked Effie Dagui, this woman, choreographer, this black woman, to come up with a dance that we could all dance without weapons on. So FME came up with what they call the carabine. And during all of Dessalines' time, the carabine was the in dance to dance. And there is a memo from Rochambeau, French general, who wrote back home saying, after 46 attempts to take Dessalines on the dance floor, they found him more dangerous on the dance floor than so he orders his troops never to try to make it on the dance floor. That's what you get when you're yourself. If he was dancing the minuet, independence was already dead. That's the difference when you're doing your thing. You are fully powered no matter what. People may think when you're dancing you're weak, but if you're dancing your own dance, and you're all about who you are and what you came here to do, so what if you dance? Go ahead and dance and carry on the war at the same time. No big deal.
Like what do you call it? The stick fight in Brazil. Yeah. Angola. I can never say it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Marcus Garvey said when he spoke on the ships that both the intellectual and the fool laughed at him. So I find two of them both in the same, both one and the same. So what I'm saying now is the grassroots people, what can they do for Haiti? You know, from say New York.
For Haiti?
What?
First thing is to call the country by its proper name. That's the first help that anybody can do for us. But the second thing, yes, what we can do. Everything that has been successful, in fact, anywhere, has been grassroots work. Intellectuals just come after and put it into a form and take advantage of it. You know? And this is, no matter what, I'll stand on what I'm saying. Islam existed before the Quran. People practiced Islam before the Quran. When the Quran came, specific group, specific people got an advantage of what happened. Christianity was here before the Bible. The Bible served for a movement. So the intellectual process generally always come after we have done all that we had to do. And they come up and say, yeah, well, you know what? May 21st, Bayinnah was talking at Professor McKee and blah, 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 and then they sell the book and they make the money. But who did the talking? It wasn't them. All right? So we have to understand that. And A whole bunch of people who don't know who they are come together and make a mess. That's real. Okay? So we each have to take serious the work of building ourselves. I gotta construct Bayinnah. I gotta criticize her. I have to deal with her, beat her up, kiss her, hug her, again, make her right, make her strong. Now when a Bayinnah who knows who she is meet with somebody else who knows who is, and that's what he said, 9 people are sufficient to create a nation. We don't need thousands. The thousands are for some other stuff, but fundamentally, you need 9. You find 8 other people know themselves, there's no limit as to what you can do. He said something very similar. It don't take a whole lot of folks to do anything, but to carry out the details. Okay? So what you want is to build yourself first. And then don't join something because you think it's hip, or because, look at what it is for real. And commit yourself to it. Don't come in because it's okay or so-and-so will think I'm this if I... No. You've got to come here and commit yourself to this. And give it all that you have to give. Put all. Think in terms of these women in the Action Revolution who put their baby girl, their baby boy's head in the mouth of a cannon. That's people who really believe in the revolution. The French went to a lot of effort so Toussaint would not know. It's true he died a few months before independence, but it was already clear that independence was in the way, that he would not know of Haiti, of the success of what was going on. But I'm sorry for them. Toussaint knew it before he left Haiti. Toussaint already knew victory was there. He didn't know the details, which date, who was where, but he knew. And he left with a peaceful heart, knowing that the rest of the work, as a matter of fact, there's a quote to this. As he was going about, before he got on the boat, Simon Baptiste, his godfather, who was 110, kneeled down and said to Toussaint, Toussaint, you're living. You're going to forget all about us. You're living with us here. Toussaint said, not to worry. Every officer is where he should be. Everybody's on post. And the war is on, and victory is guaranteed. My work is done. No. He didn't have to see it, because Toussaint is a Voodoo, person of the spirit. He knows he had put, it's not for nothing. They offered him 2 million francs for the head of Dessalines. He said, in that case, Leclerc, cut my 2 arms. When he couldn't get Dessalines, he tried to bargain down for Christophe. Toussaint said, no, he got nobody to give. Only himself. Because he knew what he had to bring to the revolution, he had done. He didn't have nothing to take care of here anymore. The rest of the work is not his. So the one who must continue the work must come on. And he must not stay here as an obstacle to it. Just like Moses in the Bible. Moses is a legbar. One who opened the way, show you the direction, but he doesn't go with you. Did Moses go to the promised land? No. No legbar ever does. Legbar opens the way and show you the direction. When you get there, you turn around and say, but where is he? That's not his job. Somebody else's job now. Job of a goon. A goon does what? He eliminates obstacles once your objective is clear. And that's Dessalines. And all obstacles and bring you right on to. You say you want independence? Okay. Here it is. Do what you want to do now. It's done. That's why you need to know yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, even when you're leg bound, when you get to the stage where there has to be a Ogun work, you're going to want to stay there. Like Aristides doing. Yes.
I think some one last phrases that Martin Luther King stated was, I can't recall it right now, but everybody.
I've seen the conversation.
I may not
get there with you.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Principle is the same. You can look in ancient history or you look up, it's a principle always holds true. A real principle. Whether you're talking about Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism, principles will hold true. So when we look at Nat Turner, we see a pure Ogun. There is no doubt about that. You look at, I can name them in Asian history and I can name them in African American history. I can name them in Africa. It doesn't matter. Once you know the principle, that's why it's important. If you know the principle, and you will know who you are, and you know where you can help, where you have to play second fiddle, where you have to play third fiddle, and wait for your turn. You're not going to fight with a leg. You can't open the way. Be cool. Yes, ma'am.
We hear about the exploitation of the American companies over in Haiti, Disney and other companies exploiting the children and the old workers and making the different sports balls in their hands with dangerous chemicals in the sneakers. Can you update us on that? I know we've had human rights organizations trying to change that around.
Well,
Any effect of that?
nothing has changed. As you know, all during the coup, they were talking about the different American companies, JCPenney, Sears, etc., having people work for 10 cents per day. For clothing, they're selling $100, $150 a night. And you have to produce at least a dozen for the day. Okay? 10 cents a day. Now, after what happened? Now, after the coup, they say democracy is back. Ooh, democracy is back. How wonderful. How does democracy come in? Democracy rides on the back of 26,000 U.S. soldiers with 90 pounds of equipment on each person. Now, that's wonderful democracy, for sure. And it was so well done. They even have Asian people standing up and clapping for the soldiers as they landed. Oh, yes, that's true. Because we have to face the truth. We must not lie to ourselves. We gotta face the truth if we hope to do something about it. Yes. So we clap. Somebody who's loved by the masses, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, comes back home in U.S. helicopter, U.S. flags, U.S. security, the works. Okay. He's put in a glass cage to speak to the wonderful vibrations. real good stuff. Okay. But he's put there to speak of what the Americans have approved for him to say. Let's not tell ourselves no lies. Say what I tell you to say. Do what I tell you to do. Be a good boy. And you can stay in power. You be the president. As long as you obey the American jerk I stand in front of you, it's a loss. That's the facts. It costs a lot of money to put all these planes out on the thing after you pay the military litigation $80 million. Then on top of that, all those planes and everything that costs you, it's a big show, big charade. We are into virtual reality. That's true. There was no war, there was no nothing. But it was all about giving you a certain impression. So the 90,000 soldiers, 26,000 soldiers go in. A lot of raping of young children. A lot of mutilating of young children. They came in with those vibrators, because Haitians are supposed to be the creators of AIDS. So the U.S. soldiers were instructed not to take contact. So they came in with vibrators and tore off a lot of yours. Of course. But of course, democracy didn't tell you about that. Yeah. Transparency and freedom of speech and all of that. They didn't tell you about that stuff. But it all went down. As any foreign occupation, what do they bring? They bring first cost of living. Before the U.S. came in, I needed 5 goods to get a dollar. Today, I need 18 goods to get a dollar. 45,000 people work in public functions throughout the country. The economy demands that this be read, and all statistics prove that for each working Haitian feeds at least 7 people. Each person that is working is taking care of at least 7 people. And now the FME tells us in order for it to get better, for things to improve, for prosperity to come, we must cut the working population in half. So we don't need 45,000 people working. 22 is largely sufficient. Okay? And at the same time, the thing that I used to spend 2 goods for, today I'm spending 20 goods for it. So that's what we're in right now. That's the kind of democracy we're into.
And you will sell your hard bundles.
Excuse me?
The hard bundles are the place you have Haiti to want it privatized. Very
Yes.
important.
Of course. And on top of that, the telephone company, right now, telephone I pay, you don't pay per telephone call. You have just a monthly thing. So I have maybe, let's say, $20 I pay per month for telephone. It makes no difference how many times I call or who I call within IT. Of course, if I want to call the United States, then I'm going to pay $20 per minute. That's a different story. If I want to call outside, I know. But within IT, roughly I spend $20 a month. I can talk to everybody I want to talk to all day long. Which is not bad, which is pretty good, especially when salaries are so miserable. But right now, they say they have to privatize the telephone company. So that means what? If AT&T or MCI or whoever is going to buy it, they're going to tell me 10 cents a minute or whatever the thing per call. So that means right now, only 60,000 lines for 7 million people. Okay? A person with a telephone is a highly privileged person. Okay? 60,000 lines for 7 million people. And a lot of us are struggling to pay this $20 a month. So now when MCI or AT&T or whoever buys the telephone company, they're going to tell me I have to pay per call. Probably I won't have the telephone anymore. And a lot of people with me won't have the telephone. The electricity, the same thing. The water, the same thing. All of the fundamental utilities are up for sale by whoever wants it. That's what privatization is all about. So that means the cost of life is going to, on top of what it is now, which is outrageous, I pay $4, almost $5 per gallon of gas. Okay? So by the time this privatization thing gets over, if it does, that means probably half of the people who today consider themselves middle class or whatever in IT would not be any class at all. That's the democracy that they've brought to us. And right now we're in a situation, we have a president who's elected. Now listen to the logic of this real smart stuff. We have a president who is elected. After he's elected, he chooses a prime minister. But if he's not elected with a very high amount of blah, 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 like Aristide was, he has to debate his prime minister with other parties. So, since June of last year, the last prime minister resigned. Till today, we don't have a prime minister. And the prime minister is the head of the government. The president was something like a queen. Okay? And so no prime minister, no contract, no international, nothing can be signed. It's like, when you go home is like today, the country at a standstill. They say nothing standstill? I said, that's
cost of living and the style of life won't change, you still have certain constraints with it, is that any corporation that's international, like Sears or JP, their budget far exceeds any government monies that they would have. I mean,
Right.
any corporation that comes in is already far wealthier in terms of dollars, I guess you could say, you know, than the government could ever do.
That's right. And that's why they buy off everything. They don't pay no taxes. Oh yeah, you and I pay tax. We earn pennies a day, and we are taxed. This little penny is taxed. But when MCI, Sears, JCPenney's, and whatever, when they fly in, and they fly with everything from the U.S., including water to drink, drinking water. And many of them bathe in drinking water. They don't, because they don't trust our water to wash their bodies. You know, but when they fly in like this, they don't pay no taxes. They can have a deal for whatever it is they're supposed to do. There is a deal to arrange this. I would take 3 or 4 years to establish a school or whatever in IT, but Sears can come in and in 24 hours, Sears has everything. Yes.
And also another thing too, I see a lot of our people, black country, black race, you know, we have a tendency of saying we are independent. And them say they the trick. Yeah, let's give them a flag. They want a flag, so give them one. But we know, just like, okay, this place, you can run it. But remember, every month I have to collect. You can put your name, do whatever you want to do, but I'm the boss. And if you don't, I'll change you anytime I want. You can tell your people, you have the flag, the Haitian, you treat the Jen, you Jamaican. And when it comes to giving commercial amount, I want to come to the line, I'll do whatever I get the best part of it. So this kind of tricks, like, you know, my race have a tendency of falling into, you know?
We fool ourselves a lot. We tell ourselves a lot of lies. We don't want to deal with reality. We invented virtual reality way before the white men knew about it. Yes, sir.
There was some movie made some years ago, like a bunch of Cubans, and it showed the clothing corporations, leather goods that had been shipped out of this country to do the work there. The people there were making $3 an hour a day. The class people were making $3 a day. Yet they had to spend like $1.50 for car fare. They had to spend like 50 cents of that as a kickback to the person on the job. That movie, was it ever shown in
Haiti?
Do you remember it all?
I don't remember, but I do believe, I know some people have mentioned it, so probably it has, probably a small circle. In small circles, not really.
But they had everything.
To touch, you know, yeah.
These white manufacturers saying, well, it's good for the country, but we can't give them too much money because it was in balance their style of living.
Yeah, now that's not the kind of thing they would show on national TV. And that's the only place, if you really want something to go out to the people, it has to go on national TV. And it would not go. On national TV, you'll see Rambo, you'll see Exterminator, or whatever, you know, it's the kind of crap. As a matter of fact, I'm writing to them, but it's television. Television is supposed to be an image of the people of the land. If I'm sitting at home, I'm a black woman in a black country, within a black family, and all day long I'm looking at white faces shooting down folks, and then you come at 8 o'clock and give me the news and tell me, oh, what a terrible thing. Insecurity in this country. Yes, they cried for 7 days for Lady Di. At the same time, an important Haitian woman died the same period. Nobody knew about it. But that's the kind of thing, you know, people don't know themselves. That's what they do. That's why we have to know ourselves, because the thing is, people say all the time at home, well, Bayinnah, you should be minister of this or that. That's no, I would never want to be minister of nothing. Number one person does not change the system. And the system is whacked. Not just the local system, but the local system works inside an international system. And the international system is whacked. I don't want no part of this. So we have to know, and besides, I'm not finished doing this. You got to be very, very strong before you can get into these things. Or they will eat you up. They will turn a good man bad. They will turn a good woman wicked. That's real. We have to know that. don't put in our heads, if I were in their place, I wouldn't do it. I was talking to the director of television, national TV. I said, why do you pass all these white films? And I said, well, USAID give it for nothing. And if I want, I said, why don't you pass Roots? That's an American movie, but it would be good for Asian people. USAID don't have Roots. USAID don't have Chaka Zulu. USAID don't have nothing that looks like me. That's real.
Because the government trying to get cuts for frack. The guy does.
That's a joke. They take the U.S. took the frack documents,
Right.
brought them in,
Right.
blacked out everything they wanted to black out, like all the names of different U.S. officials who participated in killings and in whatever else they did. And then after a few months of, denial, we want the frack papers. Say, okay, after they finish blocking out entire pages in some spots. Say, okay, you can have them. Hey, so much for government to government. That's not true. That's a lie. We don't have a government in my country.
What about a central bank?
That's
What's the problem? You do not have one still.
Sure. We have all the institutions. There is one. But it takes its orders. I don't know how this big. But, still, who decides on what the central bank decides? Tell me that. Doesn't change anything. Most important thing, we have not yet had a government who has the guts to ask the U.S. during the first occupation in 1915. United States said they're taking the Haiti's gold reserve to Fort Knox for safekeeping. And since 1915, we haven't seen it yet. And there isn't even a government that's bold enough to say, but where is it? How much is it worth now?
And speaking about the Jewish.
Please. Okay, the entire gold reserve of the country. We were at the time one of the last countries in the Americas to still have our money backed by gold. So they take our entire gold reserve, and then they tell us now we have the gold is now worth 5 goulds to $1. Your money is backed by the dollar. And that will never change. That's the way it is, 5 goulds to $1. Well, now it takes 18 goulds to $1, and it's going up.
Thank you so much.